What's up, Packers fans? Aaron Nagler here, ready to talk some football with my good friend, Andy Herman from Pack-A-Day Podcast and everything else on the internet, basically. Andy, you were at the game. Very nice to see Lambeau filled with Packers fans. Let's start there. What was the vibe like? I know we're talking football, but football was being played and people were in Lambeau Field. It sounded amazing on television. What was the vibe like in the stadium?
It was awesome. It was so fun. And I will always recommend, if you have a chance to go to an opening game, I always think there's a little bit of a different vibe, but this was even above that. And I think obviously with not having football in Lambeau for the most part last season, I think that played a large part of that, but it was definitely a playoff-like atmosphere. The fans were jacked. I was actually maybe the most impressed I have ever been in my life with Packer fans, and the effect that even when things were going very poorly defensively in the first half, and there was there was no reason to like be excited or cheer, and it was very demoralizing if we're being honest. That crowd was still getting jacked up on third downs and big plays, and I would not have faulted them in certain situations had they not done that, based on how some of the things went in that first half. But I thought it was a really great crowd and a really fun experience to be a part of, and just seeing fans back in there was amazing.
Well, let's start on the defensive side of the ball. Let's, eat the vegetables, as it were. It's interesting, too, because going back and rewatching the game, it's so funny how in the moment it is so frustrating. And I know you and I have talked about it, and you just mentioned the frustrations, especially in the first half with the defense. And it's so interesting to go back and look at it, knowing the outcome, being dispassionate. No, I'm not going to sit here and tell anybody the defense played well, because they didn't, especially in the first half. But it's interesting to see how much closer they are than I think it feels in the moment. And I know that maybe is a weird kind of way of framing it, but there are instances where Gary's right there and he just misses on a sack, or Preston Smith had a great pressure to cause an incomplete, basically the roughing or the grounding call, etc. There are flashes and there are moments. Yes, it's frustrating to see Stokes and King have the miscommunication on the switch that results in a touchdown, and King getting lost when Goff has too much time and is able to find him on that big third down early in the game. But man, I tell you what, I think the defense is closer than I would have thought, especially only 2 weeks in with a scheme switch. What were your takeaways looking at the defensive performance, as disappointing as it was, after you were able to go back and watch the game?
That's a great question, because I have not yet had a chance to go back and watch the tape yet. So I'm still going completely and unequivocally based on what I saw on the stand. So I'm going to trust you on this one. I'll definitely say how it felt and how it went watching it. Let me start by saying, if you can sign me up for 17 points allowed and 2 turnovers, however you get them in today's day and age, against, I don't care if it's the Lions, I don't care if it's against Notre Dame, I don't care who the heck it's against, I will take 17 points allowed and 2 turnovers in whatever way you can possibly get that. That is a win for the defense at the end of the day. That being said, when I watched it live and when I went back and kind of went through I went back and like reviewed the play-by-play and things like that.
Right.
I thought that the defense benefited from Lions mistakes more than they benefited from good Packers defense. And I'm actually happy to hear that when you went back and watched the tape that maybe they were closer on some of that stuff. But obviously, if I remember correctly, actually think I put it here. So it was touchdown, and then the second drive was the punt, but it was the false start by the offense, then a holding by the offense, and they got completely behind. Now, the hold is because the defense did something good, so you can't take that away from the defense, but some Lions mistakes got them behind the chains. They end up punting the ball, and it goes touchdown, field goal. They get the turnover on downs, where there was a couple interesting play calls on that drive, including the 4th and 1 pass, which was certainly questionable. And then the very next one, I believe, was the fumble on the very first play of that drive. Right. And after that, it's 35-17. And I thought, they put up 17 points in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drives, which whatever. And then the two mistakes I thought were almost more Detroit driven than they were Green Bay driven. That said, I think for the very first time this season, we got to see the Packers defense when the offense had to be predictable on the other side of the ball. And it was the Lions that needed to put up points. It was 35-17. And in that moment, from that point forward, when the offense was predictable for the Lions, we got to see the Packers get after the quarterback a little bit more. We saw the first sack. We saw some turnovers. Devondre Campbell gets the pick. And that is, I think, a promising sign of things to come. And I thought Matt LaFleur was very blunt about it in his press conference, and actually the interview he did with Larry McCarron on the radio after, and saying, yeah, it's great that we showed some of that stuff. We have to do that earlier so that we're not chasing points early in the game to get to that point where the Detroit offense has to be predictable.
And it's interesting, too, when you look at you mentioned that first punt they had, and they did get behind the sticks, but that third down, I mean, how many times have we seen the Packers in third down situations play soft coverage and just give up that third down?
Yep.
But lo and behold, last night, most of those corners are up at the line of scrimmage, linebackers taking backs right out of the backfield, and Goff has nowhere to go with the football. And that is literally why Preston, is able to break through and make the play he did. It's just frustrating, and as to echo what Matt said, that there's not more of that consistently, more getting off the field. And to me, it all comes down to the defensive front and or the defensive line. Kingsley Keke and Tyler Lancaster are liabilities, and I'm just wondering how long it's going to take to make a switch. Maybe not full time, but to get Slayton more involved. He did play some last night. Heflin again is completely inactive.
Yep.
Because man alive, those guys just absolutely get pushed around these last two games. And when it's, to your point, on the 4th and 1, to me, that's a no, run the ball. If you're Detroit. Packers haven't stopped it all night. I said on the watch party last night, if it's 3rd or 4th and short, that's almost automatic.
Should be.
If you're running the ball. And it kind of was last night when they actually tried. So to me, it all starts there with, I don't know how much, I don't know how long a leash you can give those guys, as far as you've played 8 quarters now, and 2 weeks in a row, Keke and Lancaster have been kind of almost glaringly, obviously a major issue.
And to be fair, also, this is not just 8 quarters. This is not the first time we're seeing Tyler Lancaster, Kingsley Keke, Dean Lowry in green and gold, right? This is, we've had enough data and empirical evidence at this point to say there's some need for some additional assistance. And I think that the tough part is like when you have a healthy Za'Darius Smith, you can use him in a variety of ways, maybe standing him up over center to help on the interior, some things like that. I don't know that you have that. And even if you wanted to stand up a Rashawn Gary or Preston Smith inside, now that makes Jonathan Garvin or Chauncey Rivers or, one of those guys in the game, which isn't exactly a highlight reel either. So I do think they have some serious questions. I'm very interested to see, and maybe you've caught some of this, is to see how the linebackers played. I thought they were actually okay week 1. I didn't think it was anything too egregious. I didn't think it was anything too great, but I thought, especially considering they didn't have a strong defensive line in front of them, I thought Campbell and Barnes played well. I saw PFF. It sounds like we're mostly good with what Campbell and Barnes did this week. So I think they're maybe finding some slight answers on the second level. But I think that first level, especially even setting the edge and in the interior, they have a lot of questions to answer there still.
Yeah, I said last night after the game, and again this morning on Daily, I thought Campbell played really well. And I know a lot of people saw giving up the touchdown, and of course that sticks out, and that's what people remember. But I thought overall he had a really good game. And to your point, I think he'd be even better if he had some help up front.
Agreed.
Flip it over to the offensive side of the ball. Oh my God, the running game. Aaron Jones. Who would have thunk it?
Right.
It was nice to see. It was nice to open up with that set. If I'm going to, if there's a nit to pick here, it's you come out, you walk down the field, you score a touchdown. You get that punt. You get that punt. You got to stop. And then you come out, take that shot, incomplete, spread it out, Devontae for short yardage, and then you incomplete on 3rd down, and now you're punting. Like, what? I just don't – it feels like – and I understand that's probably their openers. It's like, this is how we're going to attack, and I understand that. But, man alive, it drives me nuts when they stop running the offense through Aaron Jones.
The offense has been much better when the offense runs through Aaron Jones. I don't think it's unfair to say that at this point. That's not a knock on Aaron Rodgers, but when it's running through Aaron Jones, it means that the offense is multiple. It means that you've got everything open to you, and it just at the simplest level, and I talked to this with Rachel Hotmeyer last night, at the simplest level, defense is predicated upon making the offense predictable, whether in soccer, whether in football, whether in basketball. The more predictable that you can make the opposing side, the easier it's going to be on your defense. And when we saw it against the Saints, when Green Bay's lining up in a ton of 11 personnel, empty packages, things like that, and a score was partly responsible for that, but you become very predictable on offense, and the Saints were able to tee off against a young offensive line. You're getting pressure. You're able to play cover two. Now it just gets Green Bay completely out of their rhythm. And when Aaron Jones is heavily involved, like we saw him in not only the run game, but in the passing game, you got tight end screens going, you got everything is available to Matt LaFleur. And that's when this offense is at its finest, because Matt LaFleur, with all his great creativity, and then it allows Aaron Rodgers to function almost like a point guard for this offense. And you have talked about it. Ben Fennell's talked about it. I've talked about it. Yes, when we go back and 10, 15, 20 years from now, look back at Aaron Rodgers' career, what we're going to love to talk about and think about are all those plays he made out of the pocket and all the deep throws he was able to make, and just the phenomenal stuff that he was, when he was younger in his career, that we still to this day can't believe, he was able to pull off some of the stuff, the Falcons division round game, like all that stuff is going to be what's the first thing on his highlight reel. But at this stage in his career, the more that he can just get the ball out of his hands and let Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams and Robert Tonyan and those guys do the heavy lifting, that's when this Matt LaFleur offense, and that's when Aaron Rodgers is really great right now. That's not a disrespect to Aaron Rodgers. That's him distributing and getting the ball out of his hands and letting the offense run. And even last week, when things were there, we saw Rodgers not get the ball out of his hands when he had some opportunities to the Aaron Jones play, the couple other ones. So I thought this was
underneath a lot.
Yeah, a lot better indication of how this offense can and should look.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting too, because you still see glimmers of that Aaron Rodgers, you know what I mean? So I do wonder if he gets not enamored, but like if he gets caught up in, because there's a play last night where he's rolling to his right and he spots Devontae on the other side of the left side of the field, and he makes this cross body throw that if you're a quarterback coach, or if you're like a coach coaching young football players, that is a type of throw and a play you tell your young quarterback, do not ever do that. This is 100%. This is the kind of thing Favre would do when they used to joke, like, okay, don't copy Brett that way.
Right.
But that is 100% that kind of play that there are only a handful of humans that can do it. And Aaron Rodgers can still do it on occasion. It's just not sustainable the way it was, like, say, in 2016 when they ran the table. I talk about this all the time on Daily. Like, he is not that quarterback anymore. That quarterback in 2016 could do that on the regular and did. Now those plays are much fewer and farther between. And to your point, when he plays in rhythm within the confines of the offense, that's when he becomes so dangerous and so effective, especially when you look at a play like that touchdown throw to Tonyan. I mean, that's absurd. That's an absurd throw, but Rodgers plays, and he said it himself in the post-game presser, like, I'm playing in rhythm, and that throw is in rhythm, and that's what I wasn't doing in week one.
And the funny thing is it is a double-edged sword, right? Because you look at that Tonyan throw. Was that a third down? Or I can't remember. Yeah, yep. So it's a third down, right? Alan Lazard comes wide open underneath.
You mentioned that too.
And I'm in the corner of the end. I'm seeing the play develop, and the play you can see is clearly defined for clear out Alan Lazard coming across the middle, pick up the first down. And I'm seeing it, and actually, I think, like you said, LaFleur mentions this as well. Like, Lazard comes open underneath, and you're seeing it, and you're like, okay, he's going to hit Lazard, easy first down, keep things moving. And then all of a sudden, I see the ball go over Lazard's head, and I see Tonyan. There's two guys there. I'm like, Lazard's right there. And then, of course, it's the play that will be replayed over and over. It is an insane, ridiculous throw. I love the throw, but like, that's the duality of it, is if you don't want to take all of that away, because you still see the plays like that to Tonyan, which are just unreal. So yeah, you have to play both sides a little bit and say, yes, we're going to accept some of these because you're Aaron Rodgers, but the more you can get him just distributing, I still think it's a win for Green Bay.
And, to his credit, he has long said, I remember he said this on Monday Night Football when Gruden was still the announcer for Monday Night Football. So that tells you how long ago it was. But he used to say all the time, if I can see the back of the defender's helmet, that means my guy is open. And Tonyan is got his guy. He can clearly see the back of the defender. So he gives him the ear hole shot, and that's a touchdown. But yeah, I completely agree. You're right. You've got to accept it to an extent because he's Aaron Rodgers, and he can do that. Not a lot of guys can. It's a nice luxury to have. I'm not sitting here hating on it. Let's look forward to this game against the 49ers, because goodness knows they went into Philly and it took a bit, but they pulled away and they stomped all over Detroit early and then held on. That front is no joke. We all know it. What do you think about this matchup with the 49ers? Now, they're dealing with injuries in a big way, in a way the Packers are not, thankfully, knock on wood. so far. Um, and I think, you look at Elton Jenkins, he's held up really well over these first 2 weeks at left tackle. But here comes Bosa, and I'm not saying he's picked up right where he left off prior to his injury, but he still looks pretty damn formidable. You've got Warner in the middle there. He's one of the best in the business. How do you see LaFleur and Rodgers trying to attack this defense that has given them major problems the last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, for better or worse, I don't think LaFleur is going to change. Like LaFleur knows how to attack everything, right? And it's if he can stay patient and take what the defense is given, because as we know, there's no perfect defense out there. If they're playing a lot of too high cover, too high stuff,
Right.
cover two, they have to run the football. They got to be aggressive in the middle of the field. All the things that they did very, very well against Detroit, they have to repeat that plan and take advantage of matchups where they can. I don't think Green Bay is going to be extra. Yes, you have to watch out for Bosa. Yes, Warner's amazing. I don't think Green Bay is going to lose extra sleep trying to figure out San Francisco. I think they need to execute their offense and play very similarly to how they did against Detroit, with maybe a slight better run blocking from the interior. But I think overall, you can kind of repeat that process as much as possible. I think on the flip side, we're going to find out really fast because we know like Kyle Shanahan's just going to attack that defensive.
I was just going to say Kyle Shanahan is going to eat Joe Barry's lunch. We all know this. That's why, to me, it does come down to how do they attack them when they have the ball, and do they hold the ball, and can they score points? Or can they be consistent? Can they be efficient with it? Because I just expect Kyle to, even with all the injuries, I still expect Kyle to just absolutely make Joe Barry look silly. And that's, that's just what I expect.
They're going to pick a running back out of a hat and be like, which one of you guys is going to get 160 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns? I know we talked about defense already, but what was your thoughts on Stokes? Because again, from the naked eye, it looked really like a fun game, but I'm excited to go back and watch him on tape.
It's promising, ups and downs, a young guy. I talked about it this morning on Daily. You can see sometimes where he's thinking and get caught up with himself a little bit, but man, the physical traits are there. I had someone on Twitter last night. Oh, he doesn't have good ball skills. It's like, I don't care. He's opposite Jair. Like, just break the pass up and get off the field on third down. I'm a happy man,
Right.
There are going to be growing pains. There were last night, but I tell you what, I didn't hate as much as I thought I would. Stokes and King on the perimeter, when they kicked Jair inside, they're kind of cooking with gas there. And I tell you what, against teams that don't have one of these stud wide receivers, the Packers have not had to, face a true number one, so to speak, these first 2 weeks. I don't hate it, man. I really like kind of working Jair inside and letting him kind of operate there. And I think Stokes gives them that, Yeah, he's gonna take it on the chin every once in a while. Goodness knows we're gonna see mistakes and problems from King. But as the game went on last night, I thought that kind of shaped up to be their best kind of combination. And I'm not sitting here telling you that they've solved anything, but I thought Stokes certainly put on the field there, put on tape that he can at least hold up, and he's not going to be a major liability putting a rookie out there, which, you never really know until those reps are live, right? Because we don't see a whole lot during camp as far as nothing during camp as far as live reps. And then preseason, he's played sparingly. So, yeah, I thought it was pretty promising. You never really know with a rookie until those lights come on. I thought he held up well.
I'm sure there's going to be some games if he gets this many snaps in a game where he has some rough performances. I'm sure there's going to be ones where he maybe even plays better. But I feel like we're at the point where it's not like if we're nitpicking of like, is he a technician at corner yet? But Kevin King's not a technician at corner. James Sullivan's not a technician at corner. Yeah. At least give me the one that runs a 4.340 and can stick with players and at least show off those athletic traits. And yes, there's going to be some things that you have to live with, but it seems like right now, and just based on yesterday, and again, I'm very excited to go back and watch it closer, that Green Bay's better right now defensively when Stokes is on the field in whatever capacity he is.
Very much agreed. Talking to Andy Herman. Before I let you go, Andy, how about the punter? It's like they have a punter. And I do think he had one kind of I'm not going to say bad hit, but just a less than maybe stellar punt. But for the most part, I thought he really helped, maybe not even flip the field, but he helped as far as limiting the ability return-wise. I know they gave up some returns on kickoff, but I thought he hit the ball really well, and it was nice to not have to worry about the punter for a change.
We just want competence on special teams, Aaron. That's all we want. We had a couple nice kick returns from Kylan Hill. We had what looked like legitimate real-life NFL punting. Yes, there was maybe some coverage issues. Yes, maybe Amari Rodgers probably could have went 5 yards upfield rather than 10 yards horizontally. But I still think overall, if give me that performance from the special teams. I talked about give me 17 points and 2 turnovers defensively every game. Give me that performance on special teams every game, and I can live with that for eternity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Eternity. Forever. Another 100 years. We've gone through 100 years of Packers football.
Anything super flashy. Give me
another 100 years of that.
Solid punting. Sign me the hell up after the last 20 years of whatever I just experienced.
You are speaking for, I believe, every Packers fan out there. All right, Andy, thank you so much. Make sure you check him out. Pack a Day Podcast, Packer Report, everything Packers related. He's your guy. Andy, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Aaron. Appreciate it.